When was the last time you had a deep conversation about dating, finding a job, reaching our goals, and all the other intricate areas that make up our 20s? Every episode, I talk about these topics with real young adults who are living and learning along with the rest of us. If you want to hear how your peers are dealing with and conquering these areas of life, tune in. This is Building the Blueprint. Mason, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nick.
Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Mason Ferre. I'm currently a senior here at the University of Oregon, but so originally from Nashville, Tennessee. My dad moved us out to a small rural town in the northeast corner of Oregon called Joseph, where I had 16 kids in my high school class, super small town. But I was lucky enough to grow up in a family of entrepreneurs. So my dad previously ran his own business and my mom is still running her own business. And so because of that, I've been around it for a long time and just had a lot of interest in it. So I remember first starting selling chicken eggs when I was in third grade. And my dad would buy the chicken eggs for me, even though he was buying the chicken feed. It's the best business ever.
Great margin.
Yeah, it's this unbelievable business model. But now flash forward at the University of Oregon. And when I, came here, I really made a commitment to myself to try to challenge myself and try as many new things as possible to prepare myself for the real world as best as possible. And that's really materialized through getting involved in the Oregon Consulting Group. We're a student-run consulting agency that works with real businesses. And I think the best part about it is we get to go and talk to a CEO, even if it's a nonprofit or a small company. That exposure as a 19, 20, 21-year-old is just insane. And it's really just taught me how to be a professional and carry myself well. But outside of my professional pursuits, I like to snowboard, big reader, and then just like hanging out with my friends.
Yeah. If you cannot tell, Mason is a very busy person. She's always on his shit doing something.
Yeah.
Day in the life of Mason.
Yeah. Right now I'm training for a marathon. So
Casually.
yeah, depending on the mileage I have to do before school, I'm normally waking up between 5:30 and 6:30. Then I try to get to campus by 7:30 and I'm working part-time at the startup. I'm the president of OCG and then also still trying to graduate on time.
Yeah.
I normally just structure my time block, but I work pretty much 7:30 to 9 p.m. every day.
Wow.
Some breaks in there for lunch and dinner, of course, but really just super organized. I try to structure time in where it's like spending time with people and it's not just computer work. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of shit to get done. So yeah, that's 7:30 to 9. Probably do hour to 2 hour time blocks, rotating the content that I'm working on. So startup, work, OCG, school. And then wrap up, go home, hang out with my roommates for a little bit and then go back to bed.
Have you always been like this or did something like a spark hit and something changed?
Growing up, I was obsessed with basketball, sucked at it. And my best friend was really good at it.
Wow.
So that really pushed me to want to get better. So starting in fourth grade, I remember really understanding that if I wanted to be good in the capacity of a 1A Oregon basketball team, which you don't have to be that good to call yourself good there. But if I wanted to get there, I had to just work my ass off because I didn't have the natural athleticism or the natural tendency to be a really good shot. So I think basketball really instilled that in me. I remember my dad and my mom, bless them, waking up at 5 a.m. and driving me 45 minutes to school because I lived way outside of town. And I'd get 500 shots up before school or something. So I think it's always been ingrained in me that I've learned from my parents, but basketball really ignited that discipline for me.
At a young age.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for someone wanting to be disciplined? You're like, I got up at 5, I'm doing the marathon. I work 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. But most people are sleeping right now as we're doing this.
Yeah.
Even now it's 11, 10.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for someone who's pretty lazy, but admits it doesn't want to, but wants to get better?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think for me, luckily, it's always came somewhat easy to me. I've always understood, and I think it's the way my parents raised me, that if I want to accomplish something, you got to work your ass off to get it. And I think the first step is realizing that no one is going to help you accomplish your goals besides yourself. Now, of course, parents, friends, mentors, they'll occasionally build you up. At the end of the day, you're the only one holding yourself accountable. And I think once you fully realize that and really internalize that it's me versus the world, I got to carry myself and accomplish everything I need to accomplish. That helps. But then starting small, right? Obviously, I'm kind of on the extreme right now, and I don't necessarily encourage to work 7:30 to 9 p.m. But start with going on a run once a week or going on a long walk once a week, and then you get used to that. And it's okay, now I'm gonna go on 2 walks a week, and then you just build up, and you really learn that it's so gratifying. It feels so good to work hard, and life is better when it's a little hard. So my advice, could condense it, is just start small and then just build up from there and do things that you like, because that makes it easier, right? Like I love the Oregon Consulting Group and the people. I love the startup I'm working with. So for me, it's not hard to go work for it because it's something I love to do. And that's huge, of course.
Yeah. So would you apply that same logic to reaching goals and whatnot?
But elaborate on that. What do you mean there?
Big part of reaching your goals is discipline.
Yeah.
Or like you have to have discipline. You have to stay consistent. Would you say the same thing in terms of if I want to reach my goals or I want to reach all my goals, the first step would actually just be setting smaller goals and then getting better at that? Or like,
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So to talk about the marathon. So I fucking hate running. Always have hated running. I did basketball, so I didn't have to just do cardio. But I wanted to run a marathon because I think it's just a great way to challenge yourself. But I didn't start off like going on a 9-mile run I did this morning. I started off doing like a mile. And then I did that for a year. I'd run 2 miles 4 days a week. And that's not anything crazy. It took like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But I did that for long enough to where then I got comfortable. I enjoyed it. And then I started, okay, now I'm going to actually commit to the larger goal. That is the marathon. So I think starting off with a smaller goal of becoming a runner by running 2 miles 4 days a week. And then once I felt, okay, I can do this, now let's, push out the goal a little farther to make it harder to reach for. So I absolutely think making it tangible at first is key to giving yourself that motivation to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing that takes a lot of discipline is entrepreneurship. You mentioned the eggs.
Yeah.
You've had a million experiences in entrepreneurship. Tell us about a few of them.
I think growing up with entrepreneurs in high school, I'm not going to get a job. I'm just going to make a job. Like it was just natural. And that I'm really blessed to have grown up in that environment. And I recognize that not everyone has that, but so chicken eggs. I was a pig farmer. So I raised pigs and sold the meat across the Pacific Northwest. I started a lumberjack business.
Lumberjack
business and, learned a ton of lessons from that. So business was, I live on a ranch and my dad needs trees to be felled so we don't have fire risk, right? Mm-hmm. So he was like, yeah, you can cut down whatever trees and sell it for firewood. And we got 30 cords of order, which is 30 trailers of firewood. So it's a lot of fucking wood.
Yeah.
And like halfway through the summer, my friend and business partner I was doing it with, who was the guy that had the experience with chainsaws and everything, quit. Mm-hmm. Right. And I wanted to quit too because I didn't know what I was doing and it was a little scary. But my dad was like, nope, you got 15 cords left. You got customers waiting for you. You got to go do it. And I think that was the first lesson I really learned from entrepreneurship is you just got to keep going no matter the obstacle. If a co-founder quits or a friend quits or whatever happens, if you made a commitment to your customers and you just got to go and keep doing it and you learn a lot from there. But then sold grilled cheeses out of my dorm room freshman year with my roommate.
Was that the most profitable one?
Yeah. So I think each sandwich, depending on how much we bought, costs anywhere from 67 cents to 85 cents per. And for regular bread, $3 a sandwich, for sourdough, $4 a sandwich. So pretty good margins there.
Yeah.
And that was just like a blast, meeting new people and just having fun. And then, just a couple other small things here and there. Vintage store with the same guy I did the grilled cheese with. And then right now, I'm running the Beer Me hoodies, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah, let's get into it now. Why not?
Okay.
Tell us about.
Yeah. So Beer Me is just kind of a funny idea. So I do it with my friends, Gabe Kaufman and Lucy Kelly. And I approached Gabe if he wanted to do it with me because Colin, who I did in the grilled cheese and the vintage with, we had kind of kicked the idea around, but didn't end up moving. But it's just a hoodie that holds your beer. And I think it's so funny because Gabe and I and Lucy as well are like driven consulting group. Gabe's going to consulting. So serious. And then we run like a Beer Me hoodie business. But that's been a blast. That's been a blast.
It's like for anyone listening, it's like a hoodie. And then like where my pendant is like a beer. Like a little pouch for your beer.
Just right there. Hands free.
Perfect for grilling. Perfect for dads.
Yeah, perfect for everything. Shopbeerme.com if you want to check it out. But that's been a blast. I think this one has been one of the more realer businesses I've done where like Official LLC, we competed in the Oregon Innovation Challenge on campus and got funding and just all the little things, creating a website, getting an accounting system, like all this shit that you don't think about. That's hard and annoying. And that's where that discipline comes in for entrepreneurship is so key.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Hive is the first like official thing where it's like registered business in Oregon. I have to use QuickBooks.
Yeah.
And I'm CPI compliant, which was so annoying. Because I have credit card information because it's like reoccurring payments.
Yeah.
I go through this whole process to make sure I don't get like scammed or hacked. And
Yeah.
there's so much little shit that you don't think about with entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
definitely takes forever.
Yeah. And I'm curious for you, what has been the biggest takeaway for you since starting trials and tribulations of starting a business?
The biggest takeaway for me has been it's never what, like, your original idea is never what it's going to be. At
Mhm.
least that's what's been true for me. Like, the business model has probably changed like 15 times. And it's just like a consistently evolving thing where it's like, no, this is right. I've hit the jackpot. And you're like,
Yeah.
you talk to somebody or you try it and it doesn't work. And you're like,
Yeah.
shit, like back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
So like, I've definitely gotten, like, developed the acceptance and the patience of, okay, this is like a malleable process
Mhm.
and I can't get too attached to one idea. And like, this is going to evolve. So like,
Yeah.
so I definitely have learned that of don't get too attached to one idea, like be open to actually
Absolutely.
changing.
Yeah. I think that's like a great point. So the startup I'm working with right now, the founder, she's awesome. Who knows if it's what the business is going to be in 5 years, but this is what we got right now. Let's go test it. But being open to feedback from the customers and being iterative with your processes is so huge because, and this is in entrepreneurship, also in life, right? So many curveballs come. And if you get too stuck in one set of beliefs or one routine and you can't handle change, then you're not going to be able to come out on top because life's
Yeah.
all about change. And so I think that's a great point.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic of being attached to your business, like emotionally, because then you care more and work harder, but also
Mhm.
not being too attached where you take everything personally
Yeah.
and stuff goes wrong or someone doesn't like what you're doing and like,
Yeah.
you get really hurt. Like it's a interesting
Yeah.
tightrope walk
Definitely.
at times.
Definitely. And I'm curious for your perspective on this because you've definitely put yourself out there in social media a lot. But
Yeah.
something I've been grappling with, or I don't know if that's the right term, but I saw a video, this founder's on a podcast, of course, saying when he started his business, he like shamelessly messaged everyone on Facebook and he saw that they're online. He's like, hey, I know you're online right now. Can you share this link? And just being shameless, people call it corny, whatever it is. To be successful, you got to put yourself out there and be at risk of people calling you corny or people making fun of you or whatever it is. So I'm curious for you, someone who's like, posting on social media and really putting yourself out there, which is awesome. How do you handle that and deal with that?
Yeah, it's an evolving process.
Yeah.
So I first started doing social media, did TikToks a year ago
Mhm.
because I would see all these TikToks that I really enjoyed, the walking with the old guy doing the finance tip. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so cool. Like I really enjoyed that. I was like, I could do that and share some of my favorite stories. And I kid you not, my first thought was like, oh my God, I'm going to get so much shit for this. This
Yeah.
is so cheesy. So for the first 3 months, I hated it.
Yeah.
I was doing it, but I was honestly just doing it just because it was like, I can't like just to prove that I could.
Yeah.
But I did not like it. I
Yeah.
hated it. I knew I was getting shit for it. But I don't know, for whatever reason, like I've just pushed through. Like I totally did that too. When I started the TikTok, I sent it to 100
Yeah.
people. Like I was like, hey, like I sent it to my entire fraternity chat, sent to all the clubs. And I was like, hey, please follow this. That
Yeah.
is my TikTok.
Yeah.
And even though I knew it was cheesy, I was like telling everyone to go look at it,
Yeah.
which was weird. But so that's been interesting. And then I stopped doing it because I was like, I can't do this. This is too cheesy. And then I remember I picked it back up in the spring. And I was like, I was literally telling people close to me, I was like, I hate this.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was helping people.
Yeah.
And I knew I enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
And same goes with this and same goes with the book of there is absolutely part of me that hates it,
Yeah.
but there's also part of me that is fulfilled by it.
Yeah.
And that's one of my life philosophies is like never letting fear trump my curiosity.
Yeah.
And so I keep doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely days too where it's like you're doing the podcast and you're like, well, that's not my best. I don't look great on that picture.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I can't Instagram it where every picture I look good. It's
Yeah.
like, some days I don't look great and some days it's not my angle and some
Yeah.
days the lighting's bad. And
Yeah.
so it's definitely humbling and it definitely gives you more confidence in the real world. Especially I'm definitely less self-conscious out in the real world
Yeah.
because I know how much stuff I have online anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I do way more embarrassing things that are online forever. So I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. That's everything. I think so many people, you get caught up on what do people think about me, whatever, which obviously we're communal animals that want approval from everyone. But everyone that has been successful in whatever capacity, whether that's financially successful, just relationship successful, like you got to put yourself out there and do things that most people aren't willing to do. My dad, this quote's like ingrained in me. I was on the phone with him the other day actually, and I didn't want to go on my run. And he literally told me this quote. It's, successful people do the things that unsuccessful people don't want to do, right? And unsuccessful people don't want to put themselves out there and be vulnerable because it's scary. But to do anything great, you got to put some skin in the game. And I think that's just something a lot of people struggle with. But it just goes to being consistent. Like you said, just posting. It feels weird. I'm going to keep doing it. And then you get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's everything.
Yeah. It was like, my gut feels right about it. My mind hates it, right? But so it's like, you got to trust your gut.
Yeah. Like my ego doesn't like it because
about
but I feel good. And that's what matters.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to keep doing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Excited to see it hopefully
Yeah.
grow and help people. But
Yeah. I love it.
Going back to entrepreneurship, you've done it so many times, and you've done you named 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
So have a lot of experience in the corporate world. Which is for you?
Yeah.
Like what distinctions have you learned that you think maybe most people haven't?
Yeah. For context, this past summer, I interned at Bloomberg down in San Francisco, which is an awesome experience. And I've also interned with a couple of real estate development firms that are definitely smaller, but more corporate. And yeah, it's entrepreneurship startup all the way for me. And for me, I'm happy to work 12, 14 hours a day on something I'm passionate about and have ownership over compared to working 8 hours a day on something I have no ownership and passion about, right? To me, that sounds horrible because my huge philosophy, and this is really, I've learned from my mom. So my mom runs like a life coaching artist business. I never know how to explain it, but she helps a lot of people just live happy lives, right? You only get one life, and I refuse to spend my life doing a job 8 hours a day that doesn't bring me joy. So I haven't found that in the corporate world, and that's just my personal preference. I have friends going into it, and I'm super excited for them. But for me, just being able to have so much ownership over the outcome, and then if it doesn't work, it didn't work because of you. Compared to corporate, let's say you get laid off, you might have been killing it, right? But for whatever reason, they had to lay you off and you had no control over that. And, I'm a little control freak. I like that. But just the challenge and the ownership, I think it draws me too much to ever work corporate.
Yeah.
I think.
No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
For how hard you work, that would make sense, right?
Yeah.
Like you work so hard, of course you want to reap the rewards.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's been an interesting dynamic I'm running into, and not running into yet, but like really thinking about as I start to bring people onto my team.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was telling Ben and Logan was like, hey, like my goal here is that you feel like an owner, right? As the business grows, you're growing with it, right? So that might not necessarily be like physical shares.
Yeah.
I was like, we can talk about that. But like right now it's not physical shares, but as the business grows, you will grow with it. The business does really well, you're getting promoted. You tell me what role you want to have and we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something I'm going to really try to cultivate as it grows. Is I want everyone to feel like an entrepreneur within the business.
Yeah. And you can even do that. Let's say you're like a manager of a small team in a corporate function, right? Giving the people that you help grow, it inspires them. The productivity goes off the roof. My dad, he ran like an insurance sales business, and he was really good at like sales is not very sexy, right? It's hard, but he gave people a lot of ownership and trust and hard goals to reach. But if you reach these goals, for example, he gave you that book of business, right? And that just inspires people to work hard for you, because at the end of the day, no one can do anything alone. So you have to figure out how can I convince Ben and Logan to work as hard of this on Hive as I'm working, right? And I think giving that ownership is like the way to go. That's always how I've approached it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone wants to be a successful entrepreneur, what are 3 qualities they have to have?
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure that out myself.
From your experience?
From my experience, I think from people I've talked to, I'm huge on mentorship because I haven't done anything I want to do before. So I might as well learn from people who've done it. So I think one is just consistency. 2 is you need to like really have a clear vision. And then 3, I think I'm going to go with humility. And I'll elaborate on each of these. Consistency, clear vision, humility. So for consistency, business takes a long fucking time and it's really hard. You're going to have tons of failures, tons of times you want to give up. But consistency, you just keep going. Eventually, either the business will evolve, adapt, and change something else, or it'll hit big. So I think consistency is huge. And the second one was a clear vision, right? I think where I've had a lot of struggles with the little businesses I ran in the past is not having a clear vision and not really planning out what do Gabe, Lucy, and I want BRB to grow towards, right? Or what do I want to do with the vintage business? And without that lack of vision and clarity on the goals, it's been really hard to stay consistent, but then also to work towards something. So I think having a clear vision is key. And then humility, I think, is important in anything you do, but specifically in entrepreneurship, because to be successful, yes, you need to be super, super confident and believe that you're a badass, smart as hell, everything. But what we were talking to earlier, you might get feedback from customers, from employees, from friends that, hey, this isn't working. And if I don't have humility, I'm going to block that feedback out because it's me, my ego, I'm good, I don't need help. And that's just never how it's going to work. And I think the people that I really look up to in my life are those that are always seeking feedback and understand where they fall short, where they succeed, and then are always seeking that feedback and are humble enough to accept it. So I think those are the three I'd say.
Those are great. Yeah. For humility too. If you don't have humility when you're doing really well,
Yeah.
you're going to go off the rails because you're just accepting all this praise and you'll be like, I don't need to listen to anybody because I know what's going on. I'm killing it.
Yeah.
And I think you're also right with the whole clear vision part of, I know a lot of people who want to start a business, want to be a public speaker, want to write a book, but they don't have a clear vision of what are you going to write about? What are you going to speak about? What are you going to talk about? Tell me if I'm right or wrong here. My read with all your businesses, which from what I'm hearing is you just wanted to be an entrepreneur. You didn't know like what the business was. You didn't have the vision of I'm going to build this XYZ thing. You're like, I just want to do something entrepreneurial, which works in the short term.
Yeah.
But like you said, it didn't turn into a giant business because.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to make a couple bucks and gain some experience. And I think now working with the startup I'm working with, that is a lot more flushed out, clear vision, a lot of ambiguity, of course, just really see, okay, this is how, if you want to scale something, grow something, you have to have a flag 100 miles away that you're working towards. Because then it's just so hard. It's just so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. What's one assumption that you had about leadership that turned out to be wrong?
I think like growing up, when I thought about leadership, I thought about those who are just the most skilled, the most talented, have the big titles. Those are the leaders, right? And I really describe myself as a generalist. I don't have any standout technical skills. I think I'm good with people, but I feel like I'm a generalist, right? But I think that's really helped me in relating to more people and being a leader. So I think the assumption I had was that you had to be uber talented or you had to be good at one specific thing and have the flashy titles to be a leader. And it just could not be. You just have to care, right? You just have to care and want to put in the time. And that leads to a good leader, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I thought it was going to be the leader was the best performer, right? Like you're saying, I was like, oh, like the leader is whoever's the best. But the leader is really whoever's helping everyone else the most.
Yeah.
To be the leader really is like helping everyone else get better, not actually you helping yourself get better or you being the best and being like, hey, I did it. I'm in charge now.
Yeah, absolutely. Literally the other night, so the consulting group, we have weekly seminars and I told everyone a great consultant, which is someone who makes kick-ass deliverables, really good with the client, drives discussion, team meetings, does not equate to a great leader and therefore does not equate to getting promoted, right? The things that matter is you can have the best deliverables, but if you don't care, if you don't have humility, if you're driven by the I and the self, then you're not going to be a good leader, right? It's those intangible things, the emotional intelligence, the care for others that matter a lot more than hard technical skills when it comes to leadership.
Where does most of your time get spent as a leader?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah, it's funny. It's, everyone wants to get promoted and go up higher. And then you get farther away from the work that you first really like doing, right? So I don't ever get to make slides anymore. And I'm a nerd about PowerPoint, I'll say.
Yeah.
But for me, like when I'm working on the consulting group, because that's like the leadership position I have right now, it's really just meeting one-on-one with consultants, project leads, project managers, and other people on the leadership team, and just being a support beam for them, talking with them about life, about their path in OCG, challenges they're facing, just being someone that's available is really all I do. So a lot of one-on-ones, a lot of time spent in our club suite and just being there to where if someone has a question, they can come up and ask me and feel comfortable in doing so. So it's a lot less of computer work, hard, tangible things. Of course, there's some, but a majority of my time is just spent with the people and helping them in any way I can.
Yeah. It's interesting how it's gone from doing one thing a lot to now you're just like the middle, right?
Yeah.
You're the middle and everyone just bounces ideas off you.
Yeah.
But that's because you got promoted because you were doing this part. People want to bounce ideas off you because you have the answers and because you are a good source and people trust you and feel confident in you. And they're like, if anyone knows, it would be Mason. And you're definitely a grounding source, which is really nice to have as a leader. I've definitely had leaders before where they had all the technical skills, but they weren't very confident, if that makes sense. Like I didn't trust that they know what they were doing. And you do that really well. Oh, like Mason's got it. There's never a concern of, oh, is Mason going to be here on time? Does Mason know the answer to this? No, Mason has it.
I appreciate that. That's very kind.
Yeah.
I'm glad you have those opinions, but I truly believe it's just caring. I used to didn't like people, did not take any feedback. It's me versus you, and I'm going to choose me every day. And that was when I was a basketball player.
Yeah.
And then I just really realized that does not work. And that's not the person I wanted to be. And so then I really just adopted from, of course I care about myself and have an ego and want to do things for myself, but I want to help other people. And that's what drives me. I go to bed excited to wake up to be able to like spend time with the consultants in the group right now because they just are so passionate. I just want to help, flare that flame. And I think it just really comes down to caring for other people.
If you don't mind sharing, what's been one of your most difficult moments as a leader?
It's a good question.
I think everybody looks at like the positive, great sides of being a leader, but it's also very challenging.
So I'm very, schedule driven. I like try to turn my work really early, all these things. And when I first got into the project manager position in the consulting group, which for context means I had 4 consultants on my team and I was driving the project with our client forward. I wasn't actually doing any of the deliverable work. So that was my working style. Get it done early, organized. But really the big thing was super early. I like to get my stuff done early. And I had a couple consultants on my team who did fantastic work, were excellent. And now they're both in leadership positions themselves and are great leaders. But their working style was not the same with mine. And it was really hard for me to understand that. And I think I came off a little strong sometimes. I do have a reputation of being a little stern, a little intense. Yeah. And I remember they still give me shit for this. And they literally turned their action items in maybe 30 minutes late. I was like, hey, that's not acceptable. You can't turn in your work late. So I set up a Zoom with me and then both of them and then ripped them, went into them probably a little bit too much. And I had the idea at that time that a leader is strong, doesn't bend. You got to get your work done, right?
Yeah.
And that experience and the feedback I got from it really taught me, okay, I need to be a little bit more understanding. 30 minutes late. Yeah, that's not a habit we want to set, but it's okay. Maybe something was going on. Ask if there's anything going on. How can I help first before you go into that was unacceptable. You can never do that again. So I think that was a challenging moment for me, but a time that I grew a lot as leader, and I'm super grateful.
One of the things I see with the group, being someone who was a consultant for 3 times, right? Like that was the only role I've had in the group, was the leaders or project leads would always be like, hey, let me know if you need any help. Like every meeting, all the time, let me know if you ever need any help. But I think people almost never take them up on that.
Yeah.
Like how can a leader get around that where it's, okay, I'm here to help my team.
Yeah.
But they're not reaching out to me.
Yeah. No, it's funny. It's literally something that ELT, the leadership team and the project leads and stuff, we talk about all the time. We offer all these resources, we're available, and then people still feel like we're unreachable. And I think that's really where you have to take the initiative to take that first step. So when I was a project manager, I knew that people weren't going to text me if they were struggling on their action item because they wanted to impress me at the end of the day, right? Because I was the quote unquote leader. So I made it easier for them I would text the team chat and everyone individually at least twice a week saying, hey, how's everything going? Is there anything I can help you with? And it's a lot harder to not respond to a text I send you compared to in my action items, I say, feel free to reach out. So you got to bring it to them. Hey, I noticed you looked a little down at seminar. Do you want to go get coffee? Or, hey, you're in the suite. Like, how's it going? Like, go up and sit next to them. You as a leader, a lot of people aren't going to come to you and kickstart the initiatives or whatever that you want them to. You have to go to them and help them kickstart it. So I think just reaching out is what you got to do.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing my dad always did really well was every time, for example, when you reach out to the consultant, tell me one thing that's going really well and one thing that's going really wrong.
Yeah.
And then that way, like, you can celebrate them. And then you also get to the thing that's like actually not working. And you're like, okay, great. I'm going to do this to help you. Or, hey, can I help you? X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And like finding little ways to like get the wording in there. Like you said, you have to take the initiative.
Yeah.
I found that with my business too, where part of the model is doing these free workshops and teaching them all these skills, and then like them seeing all the value and then being like, okay, like now let's continue this. And if I'm like, hey, here's my number, text me if you want to continue, literally no one texts me.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, hey, put your number in, I'm going to text you, then 30 people put their number in.
Yeah. And when you text them, they probably respond.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Yeah. You just got to make it as easy as possible for other people. Like if you want them to do something or you want to build them up, you have to make it as easy as possible. Because in today's world, I was listening to a podcast this morning. There's so many distractions. There's so many things pulling you each way that it's just so hard to stay focused on one task or to be consistent, right? So as a leader, if you can help someone do that, then you're doing your job correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of leadership, right? That's a lot of connection. It's a lot of EQ. It's a lot of one-on-one stuff. You wanted to talk about connection, people and business. Tell me a little bit about why you wanted to talk about this.
Yeah. So I freaking love people and connecting with people. And it's been really cool over the past coming on 3 years of being a part of the consulting group and just seeing the relationships I've developed and other people have developed. But I think connecting with people is everything, but doing it intentionally with a purpose, but not a transactional purpose. For example, the startup I'm working with now, the reason I got connected with the founder is because one of the alumni from the consulting group, they were connected and I would have consistent-ish calls with them, probably once every 3 months. And in every call, I said, yeah, I want to work in startups sometime. How can I get there? Because they work in startups or in that space. How can I get there? What advice do you have? And then also I asked them, how's your work going? How's life going for you? So those two things, that person knew, okay, Mason wants to work in startups and Mason seems to genuinely care, right? So then when someone came to them, the founder of the startup I'm working with, and said, hey, I'm looking to hire someone. Do you have any ideas? My name popped up, right? And so that is just a great example of the power of connection and networking, and doing so in a non-transactional way, genuine curiosity, caring for the other person. And then it just opens up doors. And I just think it's so important. And I try to tell everyone I can, be genuine, meet people, care about them. And it makes life so much better.
You talked about the what to say when you're talking to somebody. What two-parter here? Where is the best place you also have to meet people to get to that stage.
Yeah.
Where's the best place to meet people professionally, one? And then the second part is, where's the best place to meet people like personally?
Yeah. So like professionally, I do a lot of my networking on LinkedIn, of course. We got to find some common ground. So for me, reaching out to the Oregon Consulting Group alumni is a great start because we have that shared experience. We're probably going to respond. But if you're not in a club, reaching out to alumni of your university, finding people who went to your high school, reaching out to them, find some common ground and reach out to them. I don't have any experience with any in-person networking events or anything like that, so I can't, speak too much on that. But I found if I want to talk to someone, people love helping younger people, especially students.
Yep.
I messaged this director of, it's like an agricultural sustainable private equity firm, something like that, which is sick.
Yeah.
And I just shot him a message because he came to a class my friend was in and my friend said he was great. And he responded. And we didn't end up setting up a call, but that's just an example of that person had no business responding to me, but they did because I reached out. So I think professionally, just LinkedIn, find some common experiences and just be genuine. For personally, I've made a lot of my personal connections, again, through shared experiences. So common theme here is the Oregon Consulting Group. I love that thing. And that's where I've met a lot of my friends, right? Because I'm spending time with them. We have that shared experience. We have shared interests. But I think going to any type of gathering, whether it's, a D&D club, a dance club, whatever it is, if you have an interest, go to a club, a group, a membership, whatever, whether you're a student or graduated, where other people are interested in the same thing, and you're going to find other people. And then it just multiplies from there. So I think those would be my two steps.
I couldn't agree more about the club part. That's what
Yeah.
I always tell people, especially my younger brothers coming to college soon. Is like, people are like, oh, I'm going to meet people in class. It's like, no, not really.
Yeah, you're not meeting
really.
anybody in class.
You meet people with who you're around the most, right? Like all my friends, all right, they're in my fraternity. They're in the Oregon Consulting Group. They were on the IFC board with me. They were the dorms that I lived with, right? It's much more like proximity to you and like who are you around a lot versus like, oh, I have class with them.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I'm going to meet them at the cafeteria. It's like, join a club, be in environments where other people are a lot. That's who you're going to get close with.
Yeah. And I think then furthermore, you can join the club, right? But then you still have to take it further. You have to take initiative to meet people in the club. I think I'm a little bit more extroverted, which makes it easier. And I don't know if you're the same, but yeah. So it makes it easier for me to join something new, go strike up a conversation and get it going right there. But of course, some people, that's not their natural tendency. And so joining a club is a huge first step, but it's less than half the battle, but then you actually have to put in effort to make those connections. And I think life is hard and it's so much better when there's people that you can depend on, have good conversations with, and you care about them and they care about you. But it's intentional. You got to be intentional. Everything that you want, whether it's, oh, I want to be happy, I want to have good friends, I want to have a healthy relationship, I want to do this in my career, you have to take intentional steps to do so. They're not just going to materialize on their own.
Yeah. I'm always curious about this, how much being an introvert / extrovert can change. I'm a total extrovert now, but I was a total introvert in high school. And I'm always curious if like that's an anomaly. I'm always curious if like maybe I was always an extrovert. I just hadn't developed into that yet.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I'm just like curious.
Yeah.
Can people change?
It's a good question. I don't believe anything is set in stone. I think people are always evolving. For me, I grew up in a town of 700 people. I'm like completely different person than I am then just because I've been exposed to more things, right? As far as extrovert, introvert, I think if I had to say like an answer, I'd say, introverts can become extroverted introverts, but at the core, they're still going to be introverted, right? And extroverts can become introverted extroverts, but at the core, they still like meeting new people and they get energy from it, but maybe they're just going through right now. They don't have the motivation to reach out. And I think introverted, extroverted is like a huge kind of topic. Everyone's like, oh, I'm an extrovert or I'm an introvert. This is why I'm the way I am. And I think both are great. They both have their strengths, but you should never just like place yourself, put a label on yourself and then just say, oh, I'm an extrovert. So that's why I'm obnoxious, right? Because I like to talk to people. I'm an extrovert, sorry. Or, oh, I'm an introvert. I don't have any friends because I'm an introvert. Yeah, that's what it is. Like you always can create your own reality.
Well, you can flip that too and say like when I specifically was like, I need to be more social, right? So I would lie to people and be like, I'm a total extrovert, but I was not at the time. Now I actually feel like I am, but I would lie, but I'm an extrovert. Like I would just give myself identities that weren't necessarily true yet. Yeah. But that does help too. Like you can flip that. Yeah.
It goes kind of like to like manifesting and just really believing in your goals. If you really believe that, hey, I want to become someone who is very socially outgoing, then tell yourself every day, I'm someone that's socially outgoing. And of course, some days you're not going to be, some days you are, but the self-talk and what you tell yourself there will rewire right pathways in your brain, and then you'll become more of someone who's socially outgoing. And that's just an example.
And you don't have to be socially outgoing all the time. You just have to be socially outgoing 51% of the time.
Yeah.
You just have to be slowly making progress towards that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, are you a big manifester? Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah, I'd say yeah. I'd say like my mom, she's definitely someone who believes in manifesting and a lot of like more spiritual things. And I love learning about it. And I think that where people have a misconception of manifesting is like, oh, I'm going to tell myself every day that I'm going to become, a successful physical therapist, right? But they don't actually do anything to get there. But I tell myself pretty frequently, I'm going to be, like I have it on my computer, lock screen, home screen, like I will help others live sustainable and passionate lives through building small businesses. And so every day I look at that, I tell myself, yeah, I'm going to be someone who works in startups and I'm going to help people be more sustainable because that's something that's super important to me. But then I have that belief, I'm telling myself that, but then I take actionable steps to do it by networking, doing new things, pushing myself. So I definitely believe in the power of manifesting and positive self-talk and building those habits in your brain. But that's just half the battle. Then you actually have to go out and do it at the same time. I think they're both really important.
Yeah. It's so interesting that the most like hardworking and successful people that I've met are all like big manifest people.
Yeah.
At least from my experience, I don't think that is random. I was definitely very much against it. That my grandma gave me a book and was like, read this. I was like, I don't read this. She's like, read this. I was like, okay, grandma. I'll read the book.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wait, like this is awesome. Like this, there's totally something to this. But you're right. You can't just like make a vision board and be like, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to like, the whole point is that you feel it and live it and like, pretend like you be that person now.
Yeah.
And then those things will start to come.
Yeah. Yeah. The vision board gives you the clarity of the goal you want to reach. Tying back to our conversation earlier about entrepreneurship, manifesting the goal that you want is you need that, because if you're just working, but you have no direction, right? You're not going to end up anywhere. But if you just have a goal, but you're not working towards it, then it's not a goal. It's just a wish.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm like so huge. I was just talking about this with some of the people on the leadership team with me, is the world is your reality. Your world is your reality. So whatever you tell yourself is going to be true. And, I think growing up, I always thought, oh, you're just happy, right? You're just happy or you're not happy. But no, there's things you do and things you place in your life to make yourself happy. And that's just with everything. If you want a certain type of job, if you want a certain type of relationship, you can create that. With everything, there's sacrifices. You have to be intentional. You have to have the vision. You have to work hard. But I'm a huge believer in you can create the reality that you want to live in.
Yeah. People think like happiness or confidence or humility just happens and you have it forever. It's like, oh, that's an intentional choice every day to do that and live that. And it's not like, oh, it happened and then now I've got it forever.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
So going back to connecting with people.
Yeah.
One of the difficult parts is when you get really good at it and then you meet all these people is actually maintaining connections with people when you have that large network. What tips do you have for someone who knows so many people, but now is having a hard time keeping in touch?
Yeah. I actually got this from you. I don't actually use the spreadsheet I built after. So for context, Nick did a fantastic presentation on networking to the consulting group last year. And I made the spreadsheet to track on my connections, but I wasn't using it. But what I do is, one, I just really prioritize, okay, who are the connections that I really enjoy talking to them and they seem like people that I care about. And then I just prioritize them. So I just keep them in my head and I don't have any method to that madness. But then I have a list of people who I send Christmas texts to every year. If I find out when someone's birthday is, I put in my contact for them so that it shows up on my calendar. And then since I wake up early, I'm the first person to tell them happy birthday. And those little things, like if I know someone has an interview in 2 weeks, I'm going to put it in my calendar. Hey, text Nick the day before his interview, good luck. Right. And those things, just put in your calendar. It matters so much. People really feel warm from that. And I'm not doing that to get anything out of them. It's just because I want to be that type of person. But I think one, really prioritize. There's so many people in this world. Everyone can give you great information, but you got to prioritize like the 5 maybe professional connections that like, these are people I want to stay consistent with. And then whether it's Excel spreadsheet, reminders in your phone, whatever it is, just stay in touch with them. But then for a more general audience of people that you want to keep in your network, doing things like that, putting their birthdays in your phone, putting big dates in your phone and texting them is huge. And I found a lot of, joy in that.
One thing I've started doing, which I learned was I'm thinking of you texts. They're genuine. I'm not like making it up, but if I do something that reminds me of anybody, instead of just like, oh, that's funny, I'll text them, hey, just did XYZ thing, made me think of you.
Yeah. That's great.
That's all I say. I'm not like, hope you're doing well. Made me think of you.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, they're thinking of me. That really does make a human connection.
Yeah.
And like, I don't get a lot of those texts. I'm sure it's got to be nice.
Yeah. And I think even we're in a digital world, people get thousands of texts, thousands of emails every day. Something I've started doing is I got some stationery with my name on it. They're way smaller than I thought they were. They're like tiny little cards. But like for OCG, we have a consultant of the week each week. I write them a note address to them, hand it to them. And that's something they can keep. And maybe they throw it away, but probably not that many people are giving them notes. Or one of my close mentors who is awesome, is giving me so much. I'll send him a note. He lives in San Francisco once in a while and just tell him, hey, I appreciate you, thinking about you or whatever. Things like that. I got that idea from Greg Eisenberg, who's an entrepreneur I like to follow. Just giving note cards, sending people, like buying a gift for someone. Hey, this made me think of you. I wanted to give it to you. Those things just really separate you from the pack.
Do you know Jesse Itzler?
Yeah.
Have you seen his thing where like when he was like in his 20s, he would write 100 notes a week or something?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know how he did that because I can't think about 100 people to write a note to each week. But I think that's an extreme case, but that I've got a lot of inspiration from that. And I love him. He's got a lot of good things to say.
Yeah, he's a badass. He works hard.
Yeah.
With connection, what's one way I can stand out? Because that's another issue. Of, there's so many people nowadays, and with LinkedIn, especially big people like Jesse Itzler are probably getting a million messages on LinkedIn. Or like, how can I stand out professionally? One, and then how can I stand out more personally, socially?
Yeah, I think when you send an outreach to someone, you can't just say, "Hey, I'm Mason. I love what you do. Could you talk to me?" That doesn't inspire. I wouldn't respond to that, right? And there's people a lot more busy than I am. I think it's figuring out, why do you want to reach out to them? Oh, hey, Nick. I don't know. Nothing's coming to my mind right now, but finding some differentiating factor that we have some shared relationship with. Oh, I saw you went to XYZ high school. I also went to there. Would love to get some advice or something, like something that is different and makes you stand out and is unique. And I feel like that is obvious, but it's also a lot of people just don't do it because you're trying to get numbers, right? But people can tell a generic outreach message. So I think it's finding some shared experience or some, hey, I really am passionate in XYZ, saw that you're an expert, would love to pick your brain. And that's a lot different than, hey, I saw you work at Bain. I want to try to pick your brain because I want to work there, shit like that. But I think finding some differentiating factor, something unique that you can hang your hat on is everything professionally.
Yeah. I'm always very specific too about the ask.
Yes.
Like when I get someone reaching out to me like, hey, can we chat? I'm like, okay, about what? Let's be more specific. And then if someone's like, hey, can I chat with you for 5 minutes about this very specific thing? Yes, of course. Let's do it. If I understand what the ask is, me personally, I'm much more receptive to it. So then I take that philosophy and I'm very specific. I'm very straightforward, including the differentiator stuff in there.
Yeah.
Like my messages are like minimalistic.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you have to give them a reason to respond. So maybe the reason is they love helping people, but they don't have time to help everyone. But if you reach out and say, hey, can I have 10 minutes of your time? I want to talk about this specific thing. They're a lot more likely to respond, especially, hey, saw that we both went to the same high school, then you do the direct ask. So I think that's everything. As far as personally, I think that really is, you can't force relationships. You can't force friendships. And it's pretty obvious when someone's joining something or doing something because they want to become your friend and it's not coming from a genuine place. So I think as far as like creating personal connection with people, it's just being personable, being genuine, having care for them, not looking at it as something that you can gain from, but something you both can gain from it. I always, growing up, again, small town, I had like 3 friends and I had no interest in having more friends. Like that was my crew and I didn't need anybody else. But now at university, it's like, I want to meet a ton of different people. And so then I just dedicate time to getting to know them and texting them when they have big things coming up and things like that. So professionally, direct and try to give them a reason to respond. And then personally, it's just being genuinely interested in who they are as a person and having genuine care for them. And then some sort of personal relationship will stem from that. Whether you become best friends or you become just people who have good experience with each other, something good will happen.
I think so many people think, like you're saying, like be humble, listen to them. I think so many people think like, oh, I have to get in there and stand out and show off who I am and like be the loudest person. And no, like, be quiet.
Listen.
People don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And that's so much more important. And there's also the mysterious factor of like, oh, like Mason said like 4 words. Like, now I'm building up this whole narrative of who Mason is.
Yeah. It was literally, so the consulting group, we just went down to San Francisco for a networking trip. And one of my close mentors works at LinkedIn. And he was talking to us about interviews and people who succeed in interviews versus people who don't. And he's like, you should never approach an interview of trying to convince them why you're the best person, right? Because I'm 21 I could go into an interview and try to make myself sound like this rock star, but at the end of the day, I have so many gaps, right? But if I go in there, I'm humble. I'm really curious about the opportunity, about the interviewer, and I'm just genuine. That's what people want to see. They want to connect with people who are genuine. So when you go into an interview, when you go into a networking call, when you go in to try to make like a friend, you just got to be genuine, because then people will see who you really are. And sure, maybe they don't like who you really are, but that's okay, because you stood up as your true self, right? But a lot of times people gravitate towards that.
And people can sense bullshit from a mile away.
Yeah.
Even if you're not giving it at all, you don't think you're saying it, like you can sense it, they can feel it. It's the same with the sales process too. Like when I'm talking about the workshops, like I've had experiences where I like try and sell, hey, come talk to us again. It's like, no one's interested. Like, why are you selling me this? And then I've had experiences where I'm like, hey, this is a resource that we would love to give you. And if this is something that you think would be helpful, great. And if not, no worries.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that always works so much better. Like when people can sense, like physically sense it.
Yeah.
If you're bullshitting though.
Yeah. It's so funny you said that, because for the start we're working with right now, I've been doing a lot of outreach, and when I get more responses when it's less of me selling you on why our platform is so great, but more so on, hey, good resource for you. If you want, if you're interested, here it is. If not, thank you for your time. Response rate is so much higher, right? And it's just, it all comes back to being genuine and having a good reason why, I think.
Yeah, that comes back to one of the biggest network things that I teach that I learned from my dad is relieve the tension at the end. I always end a message. You're asking for something, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, talk to this, look at this program, try this.
Yeah.
I always end it with like, and if not, no worries. All good either way. Let me know no matter what.
Yeah.
I always have to end it of like, hey, I'm not going to be butthurt if you say no.
Yeah.
I just want you to tell me yes or no. I'm just asking. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
And that's also a skill that you have to get better at, of getting confident with it. Like you're going to get rejected.
Yeah.
Being able to be like, hey, maybe you like this, maybe you don't, but I was going to throw it out there.
Yeah. So many times in life you get rejected. 90% of the jobs I've applied to didn't get an interview. 90% of the jobs I interviewed, I didn't get an offer. With every rejection, you learn something. And, to have any success personally and professionally, you just need to accept that rejection is in the cards, and see that as a benefit, not a negative.
Yeah. And I've said this before, but like for me, the lingering thought of what if hurts more than checking and then saying no.
Yeah.
I can't do it. Sometimes it benefits me. Sometimes it hurts me. Like I'll take full court shots that I should not be taking.
Yeah.
But it's like part of me is like, I just have to know. I got to see.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm a little impatient where it's like, just dribble the ball up the court. You can shoot the three. Like don't jump to the full quarter, but sorry if you don't know any basketball terms. I'm super confused right now. But that's a skill you develop and get better at.
Yeah. I'm the same way, like everything, both personally and professionally. But I think in a lot of times it's, putting yourself out there. If you get burned, sweet. Now you know not to do that again, or whatever it is. I just think getting comfortable in the uncomfortable, getting comfortable in rejection is just, it's everything. And I try to do that a lot in my life. And I think it allows me to be calmer and more collected in a lot of different situations, because I put myself in those situations where it doesn't go my way and, life's still good, right? So it can only be so bad.
Yeah. Mason, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
We have a closing tradition on this show.
Okay.
That comes from my favorite show, The Diary of a CEO.
Okay.
In which the last guest leaves a question for the next guest.
Okay.
Not knowing whom they're leaving a question for. And the question that has been left for you is, what is a life lesson you've learned that has changed the way you live and go about everyday life?
Big lesson I learned was, my sophomore year basketball, I wanted to be good so bad that I was an asshole and really only cared about myself. And I had a really bad game, kind of got a technical, got benched for the rest of the game. And after it, my coach was like, I don't know if I can start you again. That was unacceptable. And that was really like, whoa, that was clearly not something you should do. And so I think that moment really taught me that I can't be so focused on what I want to achieve. The goal I had was to play college basketball, and I was so focused on nothing matters if I don't achieve that. So then whenever I misstepped, I was pissed. And even if I stepped up, it wasn't enough. And that led to a really negative feedback loop for myself and created me to be a very self-absorbed person. So I really learned that you need to have a goal, but then enjoy the process so much that if you don't achieve the goal, it's okay. I'm running this marathon. I really want to finish the marathon without stopping. But even if I don't run the freaking marathon, like I would have never thought I'd be able to run as much as I am right now. And so I'm really just enjoying the process and the journey more than the final thing I'm shooting for. Because if you're so obsessed on that, you're going to cut people off. You're going to be selfish like I was. It's not a good look. And when you get there, if you even get there, it's not going to be what you thought it was. So I think everyone should really focus on doing things, setting goals to where they enjoy the process as well, because you got to enjoy the process more than the end goals. I think that would be my answer.
Mason,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. It's great coming on.